Morning guys, and welcome back to our homestead. Well, they're saying today is going to be a hot one. They're predicting 95 and the feel like temperature is going to be like 108. So I am out here super early this morning. Thank goodness for some overcast skies. But I need to do some more work in my greenhouse back there. We have a bunch of pepper plants that didn't sell at the market, so I'm gonna get those in the ground, and then I have a bunch of other chores to do out here before it gets really hot. So I'm gonna get going on that and bring you guys along. Alright, so what I did is we have our pepper plants all in this row going all along that side of the greenhouse. So what I did is in between I put smaller pepper plants out a little bit further from where the other peppers are, but in between. So I think that they're gonna do really well in here. The peppers like the greenhouse. It's nice and hot in here. We do have a little bit of shade cloth so they get some afternoon shade, but they do like the heat. So I probably have already harvested, I would say, 5 pounds of peppers so far that I've sold at the market, and then more peppers that I have used for ourselves. Let me give you a look and show you how they're growing. So there's some pretty good peppers in here. There's another one, a couple on that plant. But like I said, we've already harvested. There's a bunch underneath there. So these are the same kind of peppers. They're all California Wonders. Like I said, they do really well. So I have faith that these little peppers are going to produce something. We still have plenty of time in the season, and they should get pretty big in here. All right, it is really warm in this greenhouse, even though the sun isn't fully over the trees yet and hitting it. But let's take a look. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is already 80 degrees in this greenhouse, and the sun hasn't even fully hit yet. It's very humid out here, so I'm gonna go and get something to drink and hydrate, and maybe use one of our faithful subscribers' tips and get a cold cloth to put around my neck, because I still have some other projects that I'd like to do outside. Alright guys, we are out here in the garden, and I have my Butterbeans that are coming up right now. So we need to get those mulched in, because we realized that the mulch really does help our beans grow a little bit better instead of having to weed all the time. So I'm going to get going on that and have you guys set up. Alright, that is our Butterbean. It's a small row, not really for market, depending on what we get for a yield, but they're not quite ready to reach the fencing yet, so they don't need to be trellised or anything, just the mulched. The mulch does help suppress the weeds and also keeps it pretty wet when we water. It holds in that moisture, so those should be pretty good until they really start growing and help keep the weeds away. All right, again, thank you Wade Rude for the suggestion. Sometimes you don't think of those little things when you're out here working, but this does help because it does keep your neck cool, and then I can use it to just wipe my face every now and then. But I have other projects out here. Even though the sun did peek over those trees, it's getting a little warm, but I want to get that stuff done pretty early. It's probably about 8:30 right now, and it's probably close to 85 degrees already. So we're gonna get moving and head up to the front part of the garden because I have some stuff to do up there. All right, before I head up front, guys, weren't those beautiful flowers? That is okra. I can't believe how beautiful those flowers are, but I wanted to show you because they throw off the most lovely flower, and we have tons of okra. So I'll be harvesting that later on today, probably when the sun goes down. That's usually when I do the harvest for the next day for markets. But take a look at the okra. It is growing so well. All right, that was just a quick peek, but I'm gonna head up front, like I said, and get some more work done. All right, I am up here by my raised beds. Now, keep in mind that I've only gotten one filled so far, and it does have strawberry plants in it. But because these are June bearing strawberry plants, I'm probably not going to get any more strawberries off of them, but I will be pretty set up for next year for when the harvest starts coming in. And we're doing these strawberries basically just for ourselves, so that way I'll have strawberries and I won't have to buy them from either local farms or the store even, so that I can make jams and jellies. I use quite a bit of strawberries. Strawberry jam, strawberry jalapeno jam are really big sellers at our markets. But today I'm going to add something else to my strawberry bed. I am going to add these plants right here, which are called Molly ground cherries. Now, these Molly ground cherries are similar to the way a tomatillo grows. Tomatillos grow in a little papery sack, and then you peel that off and the fruit is on the inside. So let me give you a look. This one's almost ready. I don't know this year if I'll get a good harvest off of them. This one is not quite ripe, but see, if you peel this papery part off, usually it's a little browner. Peel the papery part off, and then you have what they call a ground cherry. So these ground cherries are a little sweet, but they remind me of the taste between a cherry and maybe a little bit of a cucumber taste, which is kind of weird, but it tastes good. So right now, that one's a little tart because it wasn't quite ripe. But I want to get these in the bed so that I can get them established for next season. Like I said, I don't know if I'll get much of a crop off of them this year to do anything with, but I was gifted them. So there was a nice lady at one of our markets, and she was sick of toting them around and taking care of the plants, so she gifted. And I have 5 plants here, so I'm gonna get those in the bed and I'll get you guys set up so you can see. right, we got those planted. So one of the other things that I didn't mention is these could potentially be annuals if they don't reseed themselves. But she said one of the things that you could do is, oh, my phone is ringing. Hold on, guys. All right, guys. Sorry about that. That was Eric. He started his new job and he was calling to let me know how everything was going, and everything's going pretty well. I dropped him off last night so that he could be there first thing in the morning and get his truck all set up, and he's going on his first run today. I believe he's going toward the East Coast. So hopefully all goes well and we'll hear from him soon. But back to this raised bed. I was told by the lady who gifted them to me that they are annuals, but a lot of times they do reseed themselves. So she said one of the things that I could do to ensure that they do get reseeded is when they are ripe and I do let them get fully ripe, I can take the cherries and put them in the ground, just poke them in the ground, and they should reseed themselves for next year. So we will see what happens with that. I'm looking forward to getting a harvest and making maybe some jam out of this. Not really sure. I have to do some more research, but hopefully I can get some recipes for ground cherries and we'll see what happens. All right, I am back out here in the garden. I figured I was going through some of my plants that did not sell from the market, so I have some Romas left. So there are a few holes in the garden where the tomato plants didn't do so well, so I pulled those up and we have some empty holes, so I'm gonna replace those with my Romas. All planted, and I put some rabbit manure on there so that'll seep into the soil and help fertilize a little bit. Well, while I'm out here in one of my tomato rows, I have to tell you that we had a really big issue with tomatoes this year. They took a long time to start ripening up, and I know there are other people who have gone to markets and are saying the same thing. So their tomatoes have been green for a long time. But I do have to say that they are finally starting to ripen. Take a look at these beauties. So they're ripening all the way down. We got some pretty good sized tomatoes on there. But like I said, it's taken a while. Last year at this time, we had tons of tomatoes. So I plan to take some of the tomatoes that I do have that are still green, just to harvest some of the bigger ones so that I'll get more tomatoes coming in. I plan on making salsa verde, and I need to get going on some regular salsa, but we also have a bunch of cherry tomatoes, tons of flowers. Look at all these flowers on the cherry tomatoes. It's almost like the whole thing is just covered. So hopefully we'll get a really good harvest of cherry tomatoes. Our Sweetheart cherry tomatoes sell pretty well. We also did our yellow gooseberries this year, which are coming in pretty well too. They're in a different row, but people seem to really like those at the market. So this year we tried to grow what really sells, because there's no point in growing vegetables that people aren't gonna buy. Well, I am over here in a tomato row, but at the beginning of our tomato row, I left a mustard green plant to go to seed. So we have some pods on here and it looks like it's ready. So I'm gonna pick this plant and I'm going to harvest the mustard seed from that. All right, guys, so let's see. Let me sit right here so I can talk to you. All right, so this was my mustard green. And when the mustard green goes to seed, it actually has all these tiny little pods on it. And inside these pods, there's probably like 5 to 6 little mustard seeds. And I use a lot of mustard seed when I'm canning, so it comes in handy. Yes, this one over here did not really produce as well, but that's okay. I'm gonna harvest what's on this side. So I'm gonna put this over here and we're gonna plant our cucumbers in here. All right. Now, I had a nice customer who is pretty regular customer come to one of our markets, and she was really nice and thought that I would like some of her cucumber plants. So I know cucumbers don't like their roots being disturbed too much, but I am going to try to plant these right up here. I have a couple of holes and we're gonna see if we can get those to grow, because these cucumbers are supposed to be the smooth kind and they don't have all those little bumps on them. She didn't know exactly what they were called, but you know what? Cucumber's a cucumber, and if I can get it to grow, then we'll have more cucumbers. All right, we're just gonna let those do their thing and hopefully we'll get some cucumbers. If not, it was free plants, so it'll be all right. And I had 2 extra holes that I didn't have anything in, so. All right, guys, so what I have here is some dwarf sunspot sunflowers. Now, I sold a bunch of these at the market, but I have 2, 4, 6 of them left. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to up pot them, because right now they're in small pots, and I'm gonna put them all together in one big pot so that I can make myself a nice little centerpiece. And I'm going to try to match the one, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the one that I have right now in front of the farm stand building, so that I can put one over there on the other side. Just trying to get some pretty stuff going. I didn't have a lot of opportunities this year for getting pretty stuff in the ground. I did some marigolds, I had some volunteer zinnias come up, but most of the flowers that I did, I sold at the market, just because of time. So I'm gonna get these planted in this pot and I'll set you guys up right over here.
I wish I could see the future, I wish I could see what's left. I know there must be an answer, or am I wasting what is left? And there is such thing as a vision of a story I'd like.
All right, while I am still up front here, I'm going to harvest some of my coriander seed off of my cilantro plant. Now, some of it is dry and ready to be cut, and there are still some that are still drying out. But I'm gonna take what I can off of this because I also use a lot of coriander seed, so that helps so we don't have to buy it from the store. All right, let's get harvesting.
I like to think in negatives, I don't like to think too much. No need for any sedatives, but sometimes
Alright, not a bad little harvest. See how dry these are? So basically they're super easy to, I'm just gonna roll them off, and then I end up with these little, oop, dropped one, little tiny seeds. So I'm gonna let the rest of the plant dry off so that I can harvest those out. But I should get, I don't know, off of this, maybe a couple tablespoons worth. But when you don't want to buy it, because spices do get expensive, this does help. So, like I said, a couple tablespoons worth. Good morning, guys. It's a new day, but I'm still looking at the same old thing out there. We were told that we were gonna get some rain, and we got a lot more than rain last night. It started raining about 5:30, and we got some thunderstorms, tons of lightning. It was pretty loud. I don't know if you guys live in a camper, but it's like living in a tin box, and you can hear everything. I felt it rumble last night, and the dogs were going insane. They were shaking, they were running all over the place trying to hide. There's not many places to hide in here. It's pretty small. But if you take a look, it's probably what? It's 10 of 11 right now, so it's still morning, but closer to afternoon. But look, it is still raining outside. Now, I checked the radar, and they're predicting that we're going to have rain until about 2 o'clock today. Most of the major storms have gone north up into Missouri, but in this area, we have a lot of flooding going on. I haven't even tried to go and look at the road. I'm sure that there's a river running down it, but I'm okay because I'm gonna hang out in here today. And we're gonna make blackberry jam. Alright, so one of the first things that I need to do is mush my berries. Now, these blackberries already had quite a bit of liquid in them, which is juice, because I froze them after we picked until I was ready to make the jam. Alright, once they're pretty mashed up, and there's going to be some pieces, but that is the whole appeal of having a jam is you want little pieces of fruit in there. Alright, so now that our berries are mashed, we're going to just pour them in the pot. Alright, also, to save on dishes, I actually put the sugar right in here too to measure it. So I'm just going to grab my sugar and we're going to measure that out. A little bit more. All right, perfect. So, a lot of people when I go to the market ask if I could ever make sugar-free jam. Well, we follow the cottage laws that are put in place for selling at markets. And part of that is you are not allowed to use any sugar substitutes because they are not good and safe for canning. So sugar is the best bet. So basically I'm just adding the sugar in to the berries and getting that all mixed up in there. Alright, so once this is fully incorporated, the blackberries and the sugar pretty well all mixed together, then what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the heat. Alright, so basically this jam is super simple. It's only 3 ingredients. It's very basic, but people love it. So blackberries, sugar, and then I use, where did I put it? I always use liquid pectin. Liquid pectin seems to help jams and jellies set better than powdered pectin. I've always had much more success with the liquid versus the powder. Some people might argue about that, but it's just my preference. So, but you could use whatever you like. Alright, now that I have that incorporated and the heat's on, I'm going to switch over to a metal spoon. So I have my metal spoon here. And with jams and jellies, it's always hard to tell, but you want to make sure that you constantly stir it because it will burn to the bottom. Alright guys, so you can see that this is boiling pretty good. This is what you want. You want a full rolling boil, and it needs to boil like this, a boil that you can't stir down, for about 1 minute. So I'm going to set the timer there. And as this is boiling, I am stirring constantly because, like I said, I don't want it to stick. Once this timer goes off, that's when you put in the pectin and bring it back up to a boil. And then you're gonna boil hard like this for another minute and not more, because you could compromise the effectiveness of the liquid pectin. Alright, that is our timer. So we are going to put in the whole package, making sure that we squeeze everything out. One good tip is to cut your top off of your shore gel and have it standing up in a cup and ready, because this is always time sensitive. You don't want to be messing around and have your jam burn. Alright, so I'm going to stir that all in really good. And it's not going to take very long. See, it comes right back up to a full boil pretty easily. So now that it's coming up to that boil, you want to wait for it to come to a full rolling boil. Just like that. Something that can't be stirred down. And then I'm going to set my timer again. And continue to stir this for 1 more minute. Alright guys, the jam has finished cooking. I went out and got my hot jars out of the canner. And I usually tend to do more than what it says. So if it only makes like 5 half pints, then I'll usually put in 6 just in case, because sometimes the recipes go over and you'll end up with a little bit more than just the 5 jars. Okay, so I have my bowl of warm water over here, and we're just going to carefully place our lid on top. The bowl of warm water actually helps kind of loosen up that seal a little bit and make it a little easier for the canning process, so it's not so hard when you're putting your rings on. Put that over there. And when I put my rings on, twist them on and just fingertip tight. Alright guys, so as you saw, I got 6 half pint jelly jars full, and I also got a little bit extra that I just put in this jar, and once it cools I'll put it in the fridge for us. But I just wanted to show you that just with the jam sitting there now, it's still pretty warm. Once it cools off a little more, it'll be a little bit thicker, but the jam itself is pretty thick, very spreadable on toast, sandwiches. You can also use this Blackberry Jam for pastry fillings. A lot of people like to mix it with cream cheese and have it as a snack on crackers. It's pretty good that way too. But I wanted to thank you guys for joining me today, well, for the past 2 days. And we hope you're enjoying watching our channel, and we really appreciate you guys following along with our journey, and hope that you stick around. So you guys take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye guys.